What's going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aiden, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about the big three of the Chicago Bulls, how well they have done with 13 games played for the Chicago Bulls thus far, and I guess whether or not things can pick up for them in the future. Now, at the end of the day, it's a small sample size, but it's a relatively big enough sample size to which we could talk about it. 13 games is quite a number of games. It's been quite a bit of weeks since the NBA has started and everything of that nature, so I feel like this is a good time to kind of check in on our superstar players, the players that we rely on to be the leaders, the vocal point, and to help us win some games, and see whether or not they're doing their job well or whether or not they are kind of letting the team down in one way, form, or fashion. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show. Turn notifications on and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls Big Three. Are they doing a good job? Where do you see the improvements lying for this team? This is going to be very important for us, obviously, ladies and gentlemen. We've talked about how good the bench has been. We've talked about our starting lineup struggles. We've talked about small ball. We've talked about Billy Donovan. I have not yet really made a video purely on the big three of this team. If you don't know who the big three are, it's obviously DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and Nikola Vucevic. And we're going to get started with DeMar DeRozan, ladies and gentlemen. He's played all 13 games for the Chicago Bulls, so that is a big positive in the first time off. Very durable player, and he has been his whole career, and he's starting off this season in the same way. His season averages is 24.5 points per game, 4.1 rebounds, and 4.2 assists, shooting 50% from the field, 50.7 to be exact, and 21.1% from the three-point line. If you're looking at his stats based on last year, which is where I'm going to compare most of these guys in all honesty, he's had a little bit of a down year technically. Now, DeMar DeRozan was an MVP candidate last year. He averaged 28 points per game and 4.9 assists per game, I believe, as well, which was an incredible sight to see from DeMar DeRozan. However, he has kind of dropped off, I guess, in a lot of ways from that last year to this year, obviously. Now, again, very early stages, and I think everybody's trying to find their way in this league. I think there are a couple of guys that have had bad starts, and there have been a lot of guys that have had amazing starts that will eventually start to drop off. DeMar DeRozan, in my opinion, is somewhat in the middle. Everything in terms of steals has kind of had a drop-off. DeMar DeRozan, technically, in this season, he averages 1.2 steals per game. That's the highest steal percentages he's had in his entire career. I think the only one that comes close is when he averaged 1.2 steals in 2014. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But for the most part, DeMar DeRozan has kind of died down a little bit. His three-point percentage is lower, and of course, and everything of that nature is a bit of an impact. And you can kind of tell, obviously, with our negative record, but DeMar DeRozan has done so well so far, in my opinion. I expected this drop from DeMar DeRozan. To see him average 28 points or 29 points per game and 5 assists for consecutive years means that there are a lot of guys on this team that are currently not doing a lot. And I think we have too much talent on this team for DeMar to currently average 30 and have everybody else, I guess, kind of struggling down the pecking order. The truth of the matter is, this team is talented, and if we want the talent to be purely shown by everybody on this team, DeMar DeRozan was going to have to average a little bit less. So I kind of expected it to happen, but obviously the negative record kind of speaks for itself as well. So can DeMar DeRozan turn things around? In all honesty, 100% I believe he can. And he's not doing badly. There's not too much to turn around here. The fact of the matter is, DeMar DeRozan can always pick things up. Remember last year, he had the most consecutive games with 35 plus points averaged. You telling me he can't do anything remotely similar to that again? In my opinion, yes. His last season was absolutely incredible. He's best in his NBA career. And he can have similar seasons after that, like this season as well, where he's still doing very well. But his last year was historic. I'm not sure if we can keep on relying on DeMar DeRozan to have historic seasons. We've got to pick up the slack for DeMar DeRozan as well. It can't just be him, I guess, leading the team and everybody else following. I think we've got a couple of guys that need to pull their weight. So I expected this, I guess, a little bit of a downgrade. I expected him to average around 24 points per game. I expected him to average a little bit around 4 assists per game. And hopefully other guys will come in and will help him in the meantime. So I think DeMar has been fine. I think he's been solid for his level, and I can't wait to see if he can pick things up in the future. Again, at any given time, we can see DeMar DeRozan just go absolutely crazy and have a huge amount of points, improve his points tally, improve his percentage from the three-point line, have another historic season. And of course, would love to see that. But it should not be the main reason why we're saying this Bulls team currently is on a negative record. It's not purely on DeMar DeRozan. And we're going to get started on talking about the rest of the guys now, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of, Zach LaVine will be next for the Chicago Bulls. He has played 9 of the 13 games so far. Couple of them have been for load management reasons. His season averages is 22 points. He averages 22 points per game, 3.8 rebounds, 4.1 assists, shooting 43.6% from the field and 40.3% from the three-point line. I'm not going to lie, that kind of surprises me a little bit because we've seen how inconsistent Zach LaVine can be from time to time. I didn't expect those types of stats, and I definitely didn't expect 40% from the field, from the three-point line thus far. That's very, very good to see. But of course, his overall field goal percentages has dropped a little bit. He averages 46% from the field. This year, he's only averaging 43.6. With Zach LaVine, first things first, 9 games played thus far. Of course, knee management issues. We already know what's coming with that. 100% health is not necessarily there. And again, that is definitely a big part of Zach LaVine's season. But as of now, this is another drop-off from his previous year. Previously, Zach LaVine averaged 24.4 points per game alongside a 4.5 assists. In most of his statistical categories, he has had a little bit of a drop-off. He's averaging less turnovers, which is a good thing. He's still averaging the most steals in his career as well, outside of the 2019 season, I believe. So there is a lot of positives and negatives with Zach LaVine. But once again, it is still very early for, I guess, for us to really know if Zach LaVine could turn it around or not. Again, I remember last year with Zach LaVine, he, for the longest time, was a 40% three-point shooter. I believe he could continue to get there. But some of his shot selection, in my opinion, is the reason why he's not shooting high percentages from the field as much as we would like. So, in my opinion, with Zach LaVine, it all comes down to shot selection and IQ plays. That's how Zach LaVine makes his difference. He's an unbelievable scorer, and I definitely believe by the season end, he'll be averaging more than 22 points per game. But it's about the shot selection. It's about the efficiency. It's about his turnovers. It's about his high IQ plays. These are the things that will make Zach LaVine and make many people believe Zach LaVine is a max contract player, and he's obviously going to be one of our best players on this team. It comes down to that. And I think we've seen, obviously, with 9 games played, the difference with Zach LaVine playing in the lineup and the difference with Zach LaVine not playing in the lineup. There is a big difference there, ladies and gentlemen, and we've currently seen it firsthand. That Raptors games brought a lot to our attention. We've got to be, I guess, focused on if Zach LaVine does have knee management issues in the future, how can we overcome how teams play when we don't have Zach LaVine in the lineup? That is going to be a big concern for this team. But when he has been here, he has been solid. I'd like to see him be a little bit more efficient in terms of layups. He's missed a lot of layups this year, not accustomed to him. And for a guy that loves to attack the paint, he's got to be able to get to the foul line, and he's got to be able to finish those layups. That's the really big critique I have for Zach LaVine, because he could be easily averaging 25, 26 points per game right now if he didn't miss a lot of wide open layups. So we've got to look at that, ladies and gentlemen. But so far, I think Zach LaVine has had another drop-off, but he can improve in the future. Again, it is still very early to just say that this season is a write-off for Zach LaVine. But he's probably going to be the most controversial one. I completely understand that. So with all that being said, let me know in the comments below what you think about Zach LaVine's season thus far. And do you see him improving in the future? And then we turn to Nikola Vucevic, ladies and gentlemen. Here's an interesting one as well. So, he's played 13 games this year thus far. Extremely durable player. His season averages has been 16.5 points per game, 11.9 rebounds, 3.1 assists, shooting 47.3% from the field, and an astonishing 39.7% from the three-point line. I'm saying astonishing. Based on last year's statistics, he was around a 32% three-point shooter. All of a sudden, he's kind of currently back to his best in many ways at 39.7%. And that's the Vucevic we saw in Orlando, the guy that was shooting 40% from the three-point line, but ultimately wasn't super reliant on that shot. However, recently, I have seen Vucevic shoot a little bit more of those shots, and sometimes it does get to me when he's shooting 2 from 6 or 1 from 6 from that three-point line. But for the most part, he has been shooting it with a higher efficiency, so I can kind of understand why he's going back to that three-point line if it's working for him, and that makes sense as well. But in terms of his points tally, a little bit less than last year as well. His rebounds has been much better. He's averaging a little bit over or just a little bit under an extra rebound per game. He averaged 11 last year. He's averaging 11.9 this year. That's very positive to see. His assist numbers are relatively the same. Vucevic is having a very similar season. But I guess not many people are arguing or having a go at Vucevic for a variety of reasons now, because he's doing a lot of what we're asking. And I've mentioned that quite a few times. He is trying to be more aggressive in the paint. He is trying to go into that mid-range in that pick and roll area. He is trying to go into the post a little bit more. I'd love to see him go in the post a lot more now, because recently we have seen him go back to the perimeter a little bit more. I hope Vucevic does get back into that post area and makes a difference from there, but it will depend on the lineups and the matchups. He's not going to bully Joel Embiid in the post. For those people that are expecting that, it's just not going to happen. So there will be matchups where Vucevic will have to shoot threes. He'll have to go to the perimeter and he'll have to try and make those shots. And for the most part, he has been very good at making those shots. And I think that's the big difference. And that's why not many people are complaining about Nikola Vucevic. But if you've noticed a trend here, ladies and gentlemen, with 13 games played of our season, all 3 of them have had relatively big drop-offs. DeMar DeRozan from 27 points per game, now averaging 24.5 points per game. Zach LaVine, who averaged around 24.4 points per game, is now averaging 22 points per game. Vucevic, who averaged 17.6 points per game last year, is now averaging 16.5 points per game this year. It's not big. But at the end of the day, all 3 of them have had relative drop-offs, at least from this point in the season. Now, with all that being said, can it be improved? I 100% believe so. I think some of our starting lineup problems has been their responsibility, and we can't hide from that. But I do believe things can change. I do believe things can get better from here, and I think we're seeing it. I really do believe we're seeing it. We've seen some good performances from Zach LaVine in the last 2 games. We've seen Vucevic had a very strong start to the season. We've seen DeMar DeRozan still be consistent and making ways to win. I do see this big 3 still working in the upcoming games and in the future of this team. I really believe it. And we'll have to wait and see what will happen after this season if we can keep that big 3 together. But I do have to say, with 13 games being played, we need to see improvements from every single one of them. And I believe we can. And that's kind of where the video is going to end now, ladies and gentlemen. That's the big 3 statistics thus far. That's where they had their biggest drop-offs and some of their improvements as well. And ultimately, we will need to see more if we want to get more out of this team in the future. And again, a lot of that can be when Lonzo Ball comes back, he can help make this team a little bit better. But at the end of the day, until that does happen, this big 3 will have to work out how they're going to play strongly together and how they're going to have great seasons together. Let's improve from 6 and 7, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go on a big run. Let's go and get some wins at home. Let's go get some wins away. We will be traveling to the West very soon to face the Pelicans. So, again, it's going to be a very difficult schedule for us, but let's hope when it's all said and done, we've had a positive season and ultimately everybody is pulling their weight on this team. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Have a wonderful and safe day, Bulls Nation. I'll see you in another Chicago Bulls video. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care. And